Hello everyone and welcome to our Bet Yosef Shiur. Today we are learning Siman Peitet. Bezrat Hashem, we'll get to Sifim Daled, Hey, Vav, and Zayin. We're learning the laws of Shaharit and the Zman of Shaharit. Sif Daled is halakha that is sourced in the Rambam, as opposed to many of the other halachot in the Bet Yosef where they start from the Gemara and the Rishonim. This halakha is really from the Rambam alone. The Rambam states that any person who cannot concentrate due to extreme thirst or hunger is considered a choleh, a sick person, and therefore only if he can concentrate in his state without drinking or eating should he pray. However, if he can't concentrate, then he should first eat or drink and then he should pray. The Bet Yosef points out that in Siman Tzadi Het, the Tur discusses concentrating in places where there are other distractions and he brings an opinion who holds that nowadays, since we don't concentrate that much on our prayers, therefore we should go ahead and pray and not worry about those distractions. The Bet Yosef comments and says that according to this reasoning, the halakha of the Rambam is not applicable today, and therefore one should be strict and not eat. However, the Bet Yosef does add that a person who wants to rely on the Rambam can do so, even though that there's an opinion that says that since we don't have that much concentration, we should be strict and we should not eat. However, the Bet Yosef says still the opinion of the Rambam is valid, and therefore a person who feels that they need to eat or drink before prayers may do so. Maran and Sif Daled reads as follows: Hatsameh v'haraev hareim b'chlal hacholim im yesh bo yicholet lechaven dato yitpalel v'im lav im ratza al yitpalel ad sheyochal v'yishteh. Maran's lashon is almost exactly like the Rambam, except he adds in im ratza, because the Rambam's lashon is v'im lav al yitpalel ad sheyochal v'yishteh. However, Maran seems to be mentioning the shita of the Maharam that's mentioned in the Torah in Siman Tzadichet, and therefore it's your option. If you want to pray without kavanah, pray. But if you want to eat first, you can. The Biur Halakha points out an obvious question. We learned previously that I'm sure you were all thinking, but we have to go forward and then ask questions. Okay, the Biur Halakha says that didn't we already learn that drinking is permitted before Shaharit? So what do you need a big hit there? Why is it a discussion whether or not you can drink or not? He brings the Pri Megadim who says that we're talking about a situation where a person needs to eat in order to drink, because he can't drink on an empty stomach, and in that case, it would be allowed to eat or drink. If you have other answers, I always like to hear it. The Abi Omer discusses what level of concentration are we talking about here, and he brings a discussion between him and the Kaf HaChaim, and Chacham Avadia seems to say that even if you can't concentrate even on the bare minimum of concentration in the Amidah is the first beracha. And he says even if you can't have that, according to Maran, it would still be allowed, because again, we're not as makpid on concentration as in previous times. Concentration in tefillah is a very important subject, and Bezrat Hashem, in the following shiurim, we will get to it. We now progress to Sif Hey, which discusses what happens if a person began a meal before dawn, before the time that the obligation of Shaharit sets in. Is a person required to stop his meal in the middle? The Torah brings two opinions on the point. The first opinion is the opinion of the Rambam, who says that you can continue your meal. And the second opinion is the opinion of the Rosh, who says in the name of the opinion of the Ri, that you do need to stop the meal. The Bet Yosef right away points out that the Rambam does not hold that you can continue your meal. Only by Minha do we see that the Rambam points out that you can continue your meal. And therefore the Bet Yosef explains that there must be some sort of error in the Torah. Either the Torah confused and switched the Rambam for the Rashba. We'll see that the Rashba is lenient, and we're going to mention his opinion soon. And he allows you to continue the meal. Or possibly the Bet Yosef proposes that the Torah had an addition of the Rambam, a nusach, that says something that he would understand from the nusach he had in the Rambam, that you can continue the meal. It clearly sounds like from the Bet Yosef that he holds that the Rambam would be strict and would require you to stop your meal. The Bet Yosef then explains the opinion of the Rosh, who says that Shaharit is different, because since it's different from Mincha, because Mincha you can continue the meal, but Shaharit there's an asmachta, there's maybe a lav, a Torah prohibition, lo tochilu al adam. From the Rosh, it does sound like there's a Torah prohibition, Nisur Torah, to eat before Shaharit. However, the Bet Yosef, as we mentioned earlier in Sif Gimel, did say that it's Derabanan. Maybe it's a lav mid-Derabanan. There is a discussion what the opinion of the Rambam is. The Rambam does seem to say in Sefer HaMitzvot that Lo Tuchlo Adam is connected to Tefillah, and therefore would be an Isur Torah, but it's an open topic. Lastly, the Bet Yosef brings the opinion of the Rashba and the Tosafot, who hold that the requirement to halt the meal is only when the meal began after dawn, after the Chiyuv began. However, if you started the meal before dawn, the Rashba and the Tosafot hold that you can continue the meal. In summary, we have the Rashba and the Tosafot who are lenient, the Rosh is strict, and the Bet Yosef is pointing out that the Rambam is not lenient, which lends us to believe that either the Rambam didn't discuss it, or that the Rambam is also strict. And we know, as you've gotten a feel for, that if you have the Rosh and the Rambam together, you know where the Shulchan Aruch is going to go. Let's read Seif Hey. V'im yitchel le'echol kodem alot hashahar tzarich lehafsik. V'yesh omrim she'eno tzarich lehafsik. Clearly, it's a stam b'yesh. The stam opinion is like the Rosh, possibly even the Rambam. The Yesh Omrim is the Rashba and the Tosafot. Seif Vav discusses a very common halacha, we hope, which speaks about learning before Shaharit. The Gemara Masechet Berachot tells us that Abba Binyamin was very careful that his prayer should be right after he woke up. As she explains that he wouldn't do any work, and he even wouldn't learn until he read Kiryat Shema and prayed Shaharit. Tosafot argues and brings a proof that you could definitely learn before Shaharit, and he says that Rav would wash his hands, say Berachot Torah, learn and then pray. The Rosh explains Rashi, sort of an Yeshua for Rashi. He reconciles Rashi's opinion, and he says that maybe Rashi is talking about someone who both prays and learns in the same Beit Midrash. What's the issue? We're worried that he might get too involved in his learning, and he might forget to pray. Therefore, for that kind of person that's doing everything in one place, it's prohibited. However, a person who learns in one place and then goes to the Beit Knesset, to the synagogue, to pray after he's learning, there would be no concern, and therefore it would be allowed. Rabbeinu Yonah adds a new idea, and he says that even Rashi would agree that if a person is teaching others, it's definitely allowed. Since it's such a great mitzvah, Zechut harabim davar gadolu, says Rabbeinu Yonah, added to the fact that if the people don't study early in the morning, they won't have time in the rest of the day to study, it's definitely allowed to teach in the morning before prayers. He brings that Rabbeinu HaKadosh would teach for a long period of time in the morning, and when the time of Kiryat Shema would come, he would just cover his eyes and nonchalantly say Shema, and then he would quickly return to his shiur, and he would pray later. Why? Because Zichut Harabim. We want to have as many people learning as possible. Rabbeinu Yonah says that we're not concerned that a person will miss Shaharit, because Shaharit is something we do every morning, we're very accustomed to it, and it's sort of a habit, and therefore we're not worried that you're going to forget after the shiur and not pray Shaharit. Maran in Seif Vav reads as follows: Afilu lilmod asur mishiagia zman tefillah, v'hainu mishiragil להתפלל בבית מדרשו ואינו רגיל ללכת לבית הכנסת. דאיגה למחש דילם מטריד בגרסה ויעבור זמן קריאת שמע ותפילה, ומי שרגיל ללכת לבית כנסת mutar. Maran brings what sounds like Rashi, but it's the Rosh's explanation of Rashi. Maran starts off and says, Asur lilmod, but wait, there's a differentiation between a person that's studying and praying in one place. That person, it's Asur. However, if a person goes and prays somewhere else, it's fine. And then he brings an opinion of Rabbeinu Yonah, V'imu melamed la'aharim, afilu imeno ragil lelech lebeit knesset mutar. Rabbeinu Yonah would even allow someone who's studying and learning in the same and praying in the same place. Kevan shasha'a overet, tizchut harabim davar gadol hu, v'im lo yilmedu achshav yitbatelu v'lo yichlu lelmod. We're worried that if the people don't learn now, they don't study with the rabbi early in the morning, they're not going to have time, and therefore it's very important, and therefore we could sort of push off the Zman of Shaharit. Seif Zayin discusses getting a haircut or going to the bathhouse before Shaharit. The Bet Yosef quotes the halacha from the Rambam, who says that the Hachamim were only strict regarding engaging in these activities samuch means a half hour prior to Minha, since it's very custom to go to the bathhouse to get haircuts in that time of day, and therefore someone could miss Minha very easily. However, these activities were not so common in the morning, and therefore, samuch to shaharit, it's allowed. Maran, Sif Zayin reads as follows, Mutar listaper likanes lemenhat, samuch leshaharit, shelo gazru ela samuch lemincha, shu davar hamatzui. The question that arises is, what does it mean? What does Maran mean, samuch to shaharit? Does he mean the time of shaharit, which is really dawn? As we learned that the zman of shaharit, in essence, is dawn. Netz is the best time, but really the zman of shaharit is dawn, which would mean that if dawn is at 6 o'clock, from 5:30 you can get a haircut, but not at 6 o'clock. Or maybe the Rambam means whatever time you pray at 7, you pray at 8, and a half hour before that would be allowed. The Biur Halacha discusses it, and it seems from most of the Achronim that the Machmir, that they're holding that it's from dawn. Maran mentioned bathhouse, which is the bathhouse has a concern that it's very hot in there, people would faint, there's a high level of heat, humidity, so on and so forth. However, what about a shower? What about a mikveh? Many of the Achronim say that a shower is allowed, and for sure a mikveh is allowed, even after alot, because it helps a person physically and spiritually prepare for the tefillah. Thank you for joining. Be'ezrat Hashem, we will continue with Seif Het and Siman Peitet, and Be'ezrat Hashem progress to Siman Sadi in the next shiur. Shabbat Shalom and Besorot Tovot.